Only watch this video if you feel like you've been manifesting your specific person for too long. Because really, as we know, manifestation is meant to be easy and effortless, and that's okay if we're experiencing a lot of time, but there's something very subtle and very simple you can do to change this. Because you and I both know that when you change your state, you see a difference in your reality. So if your specific person isn't showing up in the way that we want, that's okay. It just means that our state isn't aligned with the outcome that we want. And there's actually a very simple way to do this, and we'll talk about it in this video. It's basically a technique that you can use right here and right now to change everything. Because I know as well, when you're listening to this video, you may have this thought, which every single person is going to have this thought in manifestation, but I feel like I'm doing everything correct. I feel like I'm doing everything right. I'm thinking, I'm doing my techniques, I'm doing my visualizations. Everything is exactly as it should be with my specific person. How come they're not showing up yet? And the reason is there's just small things that we do throughout our day that accidentally prime us for the opposite. Meaning we're just accidentally doing things that make us feel as if we're single, or support the ideas or thoughts that our specific person might not want to be with us, or that they might be ignoring our messages, which of course you and I both know that could never be the case. Your specific person is waiting for you. But when we consistently and habitually do these things over and over again, we can't help but have our mind or our subconscious be convinced of the opposite. And so what you're going to do in order to change this, so again, this is for anyone who's been just manifesting for too long, you're going to go to Build a State Workshop. Okay, that's what we're going to do in this video. Kind of like Build a Bear workshop, but you're going to build a state, which is going to build your specific person in the exact way that you want, because we know that everything in your reality is just a reflection of how you are acting, who you are, and the state of being that you're acting from. And so, because when we look at our reality, we may have this thought process of, yeah, but I feel like I'm doing everything right, because we just can't see the small habits, the small assumptions, the small thoughts that are working against us. But if instead we go to this Build a State workshop, everything will be so much easier and so much more effortless. So what I want you to do in order to see and overcome anything that is blocking your path, because it is just a decision that we are going to make. And as soon as you make that decision, your specific person will show up. You'll know exactly what to do. Your mind and your anxieties or worries that you're having will completely evaporate because it will become effortless. But what I want you to do is imagine someone else. So this is not going to be you. It might be an imaginary person, imaginary version of you. And I want you to imagine this individual, and they are currently in the state that you want to be in. So maybe this person is in a relationship. Maybe this person is married. Maybe this person is pursued by everyone that they want. Maybe this person is extremely confident. Maybe this person gets constantly texted by their specific person. I want you to imagine this individual, and I'll explain why you want this to be someone that's not you at first. I then want you to ask yourself, what does this person do? How do they act? This person being the individual loved, pursued, and massively desired by their specific person, or you could even take it a step further and imagine this individual as the perfect representation of the individual that your specific person was be obsessed with. What do they do? How do they act? Imagine them approaching a situation you might have approached and ask, how should they act in this situation? Let's say you're not texted by your specific person at some point and you're worried. Ask yourself in this Build a State workshop, how does this person react to this? And at first you might be asking, why am I actually thinking of this as another individual? Why don't I imagine this as myself? But the reason is the same reason why we're doing things in our reality that are kind of rooting out or creating the opposite of what we want. It's because when you're emotionally attached to something, it's impossible to see outside of that emotional state. So when you look at your reality, you are accidentally doing things that are working against what you want, and that's okay, but they've become completely blind to us because we're reacting emotionally. When you feel as if your specific person is ignoring you or not texting you, it makes perfect sense to yell at them or ignore them or things like that, right? Of course, that's not who you are, but in those states, it can feel like that. But if you were to think of this other individual that, again, you can just mirror and act exactly as, if they approach that same exact state in your mind, they won't have the same exact emotional connection to this outcome, meaning they will not react to their reality, but then assume and act only in the state that you've assumed them to be. And so, with this in mind, then when we're building this state and thinking of this individual, basically, we're essentially thinking of the future versions of ourselves that's already in our end state. And don't get it wrong, there is technically no future, only the now. So, this isn't something that's going to happen, it's already happening and it has already happened. But in this state, when you think of this individual, you can just ask, what would they do in this situation? And it's funny and crazy because we could do this with our future self as well, but again, it's much easier to imagine just some random individual or person that's acting this out because we won't get emotionally attached. We'll be able to act automatically in the state that we want, and it will literally feel effortless. We will not be emotionally reacting to our reality, and then we'll be able to change it. Because the reason that we continuously see the same exact thing happening outside of us is because we assume something, right? And I think I've talked about this cycle of manifestation before, but I think it's a really great concept to keep in mind during manifestation. So I'll repeat it here, but it's at the beginning, you have an assumption, which then reflects in your reality because your reality must find proof of your assumption. So we're over here and then we react differently because of that proof that we have found, which thus increases the original assumption in the first place. But we're going to be in a cycle forever. And I can't tell you how many people come and talk to me and have that cycle occurring. And it's so easy to break, right? Like the way out of it is just to understand it for one. And then imagine, again, you could use this build a state workshop to then alter everything, right? Just imagine the version of you that already has it, or the version of a person who would already and easily do this. What would they do? And your mind will not be bothered, won't be questioned. You won't have any emotional reactions, and you'll be able to break this cycle that goes around and around and around, keeping us in that same exact state, thus having us manifest for much too long. And as soon as you break that, you'll realize you have been so close to your manifestation that you didn't even understand it because of the emotional state that we have been in. And it even shows in all of the success stories that I always show on this channel, because if they could do it, then you can do it too. For example, I have another one for you today. So this individual for my email coaching saw this happen in real time in the first email that we shared. So they were in no contact. They were having all the problems that everyone would have. And as you could see, if you could read it, after this understanding, they reached out to their specific person and then they texted back, showing up as a completely different person, wanting to hang out, wanting to see them, basically wanting to interact with them in the way that they have always wanted. And this is something that isn't strange or unavailable to anyone. You have this ability right here and right now. We just have to switch and change this cycle that we are creating. And this is something you could do with this technique in this video right now. So take out a piece of paper and imagine this either future version of you or another individual. If you feel like you are right now, if you feel you're stuck in that emotional trap of thinking the same things with your specific person, I would definitely think of it as a different individual. And then ask yourself, okay, they're pursued or they're loved or they're abundant or they're whatever you want with your specific person. They're this individual. They're perfect at it. They're automatic at it. They never fail. What do they do? What do they think? If they were in my position and took over my state and took over my body, what would they do today? How would they react to the state that I'm in? What would be their response? And the wild thing is you'll immediately get a bunch of information that you thought you never had access to, because you're assuming that state, because you're finding yourself in the assumption of already having it just by thinking upon an individual or a state or a version of you that has already done it. And I think I've talked about things like this in the past because you can always ask upon your future self to give you any information that you want. It's kind of like the idea of the Akashic records. You know everything, right? Everything is available to you. It may not seem like it in a state, but that's because you cannot see out of any state that you are in. But every single piece of information is already available to you because you are in a direct connection with your higher self who has already done literally everything. You've already been with your specific person. You already are with your specific person, and you're already going to be with your specific person. Every outcome you could ever imagine and could ever think of, and an infinite amount more of you being with your specific person has already been done. Time is not linear. You have already created it. This is Neville Goddard's concept of the 4D. And thus, considering you already have it, You just need to embody the state of the individual that already does it. But again, when you're in the state, you will not, or outside of the state, this will make no sense, right? If you are reacting emotionally and in an emotional state, you have to first get out of that state to understand or act upon any of this. Because when we're in a state, you have to recreate it. It's the same idea of, think of two individuals in an argument. Are they trying to find a solution or not? We would say no. An argument is two people just trying to be the bigger victim. And you would say being a victim is not something that is going to propel or find ourselves into a solution. Think of it in the same way next time you have an argument with your specific person. It is communication, which is good, but you'll find both you and them are just trying to be the bigger victim. Or think back to a past argument you might have had. And you're like, what's going on? Why didn't I just resolve it, right? And if you think of the version of you that already has it, they would resolve it. They would know exactly how to do it. And thus you know exactly how to do it. But it is very strange when we act on those states and realize, what were we doing? Why were we not trying to find the truth? Why were we not trying to manifest something beneficial or amazing as a result of this, right? We just continued thinking or acting or responding and creating the same exact thing over and over again. But until we understand it and pull out of this state, none of this will make sense, because I can already hear maybe a past version of you be like, that's not going to work. That's impossible. What do I do after that? But what you do after this is automatic. What you do after this will automatically come from the state. If in a state of being maybe sad, let's say, or a negative or down, must repeat or create that same instance in the same way if you're in an argument, your mind just wants to create it. If that's the case, the same thing happens in the positive. You would say when you're in this argument, you're just automatically compelled to do it, right? You basically, and honestly, you had no choice in the moment because you were totally unaware of it. You allowed your state to take over and it was effortless, right? Think back to the last disagreement you had, it's really easy, right, to stay there. But the same thing is with happiness. The same thing is with abundance. The same thing is with positivity, right? When you're in that positive state, it's automatic. So a lot of people think of these ideas and these actions or these techniques and think, okay, so what do I do after this? You will know you could do anything. Literally, there is an infinite amount of ways to an infinite number of states that lead you to your specific person. And thus, honestly, you could ask yourself, what do I feel like doing? Because whatever you feel like doing, the state will automatically create it. And so it's kind of this concept where we don't want to overthink it, because as soon as we start to overthink it, that's when it becomes a problem. And we'll just revert back to this previous sense of self, this previous state that we might not have wanted to be in. And if we think back to, if you've seen, I know for a fact you've seen my previous video when I talk about the Taj Mahal method, but that proves that literally at any given moment, at any given time, you can manifest whatever you want. I could manifest in this room right now with everything around me, anything we want, right? And so sometimes it feels hard though, but the reason for that video, so if you haven't checked it out, definitely check it out. But the reason for that video is to give your logical mind an excuse to completely let go and manifest whatever you want. So just really, really simply and really quickly as a review, but I would definitely still watch the video. The Taj Mahal theorem is a quantum physics idea that whatever you're doing right now, there's a way in which you can interact with your reality to create a copy of the Taj Mahal on the moon. And this is a legitimate theory that they discuss in quantum physics, because you're changing the wave function of your reality without going too much into detail of that, or kind of making it a little more confusing. But in essence, you're doing the same thing now. So in essence, if that's the case, if you can make a copy of the Taj Mahal on the moon, I'm pretty sure you could, in this moment, do something, react, act, think, believe, assume something that alters your specific person's mind and makes them reach out to you now, or call you now, or ask you to hang out now, literally, or they could ask you to marry you. And I know it sounds strange because, again, our logical mind doesn't want to believe it, but there's a version of you that gets a text right now, and you're going to see it come down as a banner watching this video if you're watching on your phone. But there's a version of you that gets texted. Well, maybe you don't want to be texted, asked out to be married, but there's a version of you that gets married today, basically. There's a version of you that's asked to be married today. There's a version of you that gets asked to hang out. Every single outcome you could ever imagine has already happened and is already available to you, literally in the space that you're in right now. And it will seem really hard to our logical mind, but that's the whole point. If you ever have a problem with, again, manifesting right now, creating something without, like, your logical mind thinks I have to interact with something in order to change it, I would definitely check out that video because that's basically the excuse. But this is how we get out of this cycle of manifesting for too long, because any length of time, technically, to your subconscious mind is too long. Right? It's way too long, right? Your higher self, your God state does not wait for anything. And so you don't have to either. Now, of course, sometimes waiting is a positive thing. Like, it's not necessarily something that we want to completely eliminate, because sometimes there is power in waiting. Sometimes we can't really embody or exhibit patience in that way. Sometimes it feels good to, like, wait for our specific person, to miss them a little bit because it makes hanging out with them that much better. But of course, you don't have to do that. It's only actually the ways of your assumption of thinking that it's better by waiting. And so that's something that we have to overcome. Because if your mind and body were to immediately embody the state of this individual that you are creating in your mind, again, write down characteristics, write down what they would think, write down what they would do. If that individual took over your mind right now, they would immediately go to their specific person. They would create the outcome. They would react perfectly. And you're like, that's something that you could do now. You created them. So if you feel like you can't make it happen or you can't manifest now, how can this imagined version that you've created can all of a sudden do it, right? And we would say, I don't know, right? We'd have no answer to that, because honestly, by creating and thinking of this individual, you are going to know and realize and understand you have every single state within you. This person, this version of yourself that you have just spontaneously created isn't in your imagination. It's an embodiment of you. It's a state that you can get. And so if we know for a fact that version of you could embody yourself and get whatever you want, then if you need to start thinking of this individual right now and ask yourself and basically come to them for any problem that you could ever have or ever imagine, and they will immediately know a solution. They'll be able to immediately act upon whatever state, whatever problem that you're having, and resolve it instantaneously, no matter what. It takes this idea of this emotional cycle that we get into completely out of it, because it's not nothing around us needs to change. Nothing in our external reality needs to become different. We have to become different. We are the versions and the individual and the thing that's reflecting on our external reality. So how could anything change? And that's where the emotional cycle comes in. We feel our reality is not the way we want. We get emotional about it. And thus we find proof and change our actions in accordance to it, which then supports it originally. And so then we just end up doing the same things over and over and over again. And so if you are manifesting for too long, try this out immediately. Try it out. You could even ask this version of yourself, what affirmations should I say? What would I do on a daily basis? I know right now, if we're in whatever state that doesn't align with it, you're not going to believe me, but as soon as you start to act it out, think about it, contemplate it, you will notice a different instantaneously. I'm not even kidding. Like, we use the word instantaneously, kind of throwing it around, but technically, according to your own belief system, you already have the ability to be with them. But when I mention instantaneously, when we act this out, when we become something different, when we're not just acting as someone different, because again, as this individual, you're just not acting like them. You're just not copying them. You actually are them. And when you become them, so when you are that individual, it's going to become effortless, and you will absolutely, without a doubt, you will immediately see the results of it. Because truly, and again, our mind and people kind of fight against us thinking, but how could it happen immediately? But if you have any problem with it happening immediately, go watch the Taj Mahal theorem. That's a perfect excuse for your mind to do it. But everything can happen now. Everything is available to you. There is no limit. The only reason you feel that there is a limit and you can't do it is because your state feels limited. What's logical to your subconscious mind is the way in which you'll perceive logic in your reality, because logic is not a universal tactic, a universal trait. So remember that and make instant successes logical. Make that something that's automatic. Make your belief that you always manifest instantaneously. All the time, every single time, no matter what. You don't wait for your manifestations, they wait for you. And I can't tell you how close to the truth that truly is. And so if you did have any questions on it or what I would say is actually use this video as like a comment section to write up that individual. So who is that individual? Make it public, set that intention, write it out. We can be this manifestation, kind of like a workshop aspect, because and it is the build the state workshop. So build the state down below. Use that comment section, because you don't know how helpful it's going to be when you embody and you're acting from a state, how inspiring that's going to be to other individuals who can thus create their state better based on what you have thought of and what you've done and the assumptions that you have. As well as this, if you had any questions at all, make sure to comment them down below as well. If you didn't want to comment something or wanted to send me your specific state, and because you definitely wanted to set that intention but didn't want to post it publicly, make sure to head over to kyleaugustcoaching.com. That's where you can reach me personally. And if you have reached out and I haven't gotten back yet, I just get quite a few emails. So be patient. Definitely, I want to understand, hear everything you have to say. Again, people think that sending me a message is like bothering me. Absolutely not. I'm invested in your manifestation, and so I want to hear about it. So as always, thank you so much for stopping by. After writing that comment, if you can, for me, leave a thumbs up on this video and don't forget to subscribe. That would help me out massively. And as I always say, thank you so much for stopping by today, and I'll see you in my next video tomorrow.